This week in comic books, my two favorite stories right now just came out from DC, and that's Silent Night and the King Kong Godzilla thing. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you why I love it. In Marvel, we get Capwolf, and man, that thing is just action packed. And then we go over to the Incredible Hulk, and it's still just as good with some interesting things happening in it. And Independence, don't even get me started on the G.I. Joe, much less what happened in He-Man, Forge of Destiny. And today we're going to talk about a word or term that's often used in geopolitics called useful idiot. I know none of you would fall for that because you're super good looking and you smell really great. And just to show you how much I love you, I'm going to try to sell you some coffee. Check this out. Hey, what's going on, folks? This is your boy Pocan Joe to talk to you about Coffee Brand Coffee. We serve people that are tired of gimmicky advertising and branded companies that want to lecture you. At Coffee Brand Coffee, all we want to do is serve you freshly roasted coffee wherever you're at, whenever you want it. Consider Coffee Brand Coffee. Check us out, check our reviews out, and use promo code POCANJOE or the link down in the description to save yourself some money. Give me the opportunity to get you a delicious cup of coffee. All right, you wonderful weirdos. It's getting cold outside. Grab yourself something warm to drink from old Coffee Brand Coffee there. But let's jump into this week's comic book haul and review, and we're kicking it off with what better book than Silent Night, number 3. I am absolutely just in love with this story. It's weird, right? It's Santa Claus, but it's like that. This is what the historically accurate, if that was a thing, type Santa Claus, right? The warrior craftsman, slayer of monsters, and then throwing the Justice League in there to battle it, throwing some Krampus in there, and in this one we get one of our major battles that actually happen with another twist that happens. So we understand that Krampus was cast away under a misunderstanding, and then the thought was, or the perception was, that he came back with this kind of vengeful attitude. But no, he's been controlled by something, because you can't change Krampus. Krampus is what he is. It's his nature. I love the fact that they keep harping on that, talking about his nature, what he is, and how he hasn't really changed. It's something else that possessed him, and it released the big baddies from Nordic mythology, like that giant wolf thing and frost giants and pretty much anything you heard in Thor. So they're going down that right to fight the big baddies now, and Krampus stole Robin, Damien, and took off with him, because that's what he does, right? He kind of scares the kids. He actually cares for kids, and the whole thing was just a gimmick, but he took him and ran off with him. And the thought is, again, as we perceive the thing that happened, we see it as a bad thing. I got a sneaky suspicion he's doing it to protect him, because he was the only child there. So, I hope that's the case. I love it when I don't love it when we do it, but I always like a story when it shows that, that the worst enemy sometimes is our snap judgment and our perception of something and the way that it looks. And we have to combat that, right? That's an internal combat, not an external combat. But it gets harder when you have an external combat at the same time. The story's beautifully written that way. And throwing the whole Christmas theme into it, man, what a better time. Just what a better time to have that story. Okay, moving on. We got Justice League, Godzilla, and King Kong. Finally, we see King Kong. He shows up, right? He's over on Skull Island with Oliver right now. And there's the battle that's going on there. And everybody's split up, right? The entire Justice League is split up throughout the world, fighting these different kaijus, right? The giant monsters, right? And this is just your initial battle, right, of what's going on. But it finally gets mentioned in issue 3 here. Where's Toyman, the guy who kind of kicked all this off? It's like we just kind of forgot about him. He's one of those characters you can easily forget about, right? Like, I didn't even think about him in the last issue. But he's the one that kicked all this off, and people are like, where is he? Well, he's someplace. We don't know, right? For some reason, all the monsters get drawn to a certain beacon that's going off right now. For some reason. And we don't know where it is, but Lex Luthor finds it. He sees the source of this sound that these animals are being drawn to now as they leave. Interesting. Oh, and Superman died. Again. Yeah, that happened. Apparently Godzilla took our boy in blue and took him out. Is he really dead? Nobody dies in Come here. Nobody listens. But people They never die in comic books. That's just not a thing. He'll be right back. Don't worry about it. But having Superwoman or Supergirl, whatever we're calling her now, having her step up and be in the leadership role as the person, the most powerful one in this group, kind of fighting now, was refreshing. I thought that was it was a good idea, right? To take Superman, the guy we know can them all, right? And of course, Shazam feels like it's his fault because in the last issue, he kind of egged that battle on with Godzilla, ultimately hurting our boy Superman. So yeah, great storytelling. But for the big battle part here, yeah, it was good. But let's get back to the, why this stuff is happening or how they're able to get away with it, or maybe even start kind of working towards that next level. I think that would be a good change up. Speaking of change up, let's jump into Marvel. We got Capwolf, so I had to go with this cover. Like, I don't know why, but it's a beautiful cover. Makes sense. We learned a little bit about Roz, our witch in here. We find out she's Russian. She's also a werewolf. In her native country of Russia, she was hunted down there for being, different. Probably being a witch didn't help either, to be fair, because we have a bad history around the world with witches. We burned them at the stake. Or sunk them in water. Whatever the case may be. But in this one, this is, again, just another raw battle. We got Capwolf invading the castle. He hits the other werewolves, confronts. She tries to convince him to join her side. It's Captain America deep down in his soul. He ain't changing sides. So they fight it out in wolf form. That was great. And the Howling Commandos, of course, invade the castle, and they run into a group of werewolves in there as well, because now the Ratsies, they have werewolves too. They got a whole army of them. I like it. I just like this story. Watching these characters. Every now and then when you have a longer series like this, these little mini series, it's good just to have one issue where it's just the battle. Right? Just take the whole issue and make it the battle. And just that way we can get onto the story and you get that feeling, right? It's that I can't describe it. Just a eureka moment that happened. So definitely delivered on that in every aspect. Next, we got Incredible Hulk again. Right, we got this new Ghost Rider. I love this new Ghost Rider. He's not new. He's from World War II. First off, the way they designed him, it's beautiful. Let me show you a quick picture of him. And I like his whole concept of why he still exists. I think it's going to be the best part. Is to protect his family, right? That's right? That's kind of the nature of the soldier, right? To protect and defend by going on the offensive. But his entire character design here, I am just loving. Like, are you kidding me? Look at this dude. He's literally just asking for a cigarette there. If I got a cigarette, figures. If the person doesn't. But more importantly in here, we get a first appearance of a character by the name of War Devil. Now, War Devil is a mixture of soldiers from the local VFW who were kind of at a support group and kind of dealing with the, what they have to deal with, right? God bless them, right? That's a real thing out there. And this eldest, our big bad in the background, kind of using this dark part of them and kind of creating the War Devil character to kind of come and beat Hulk, right? Because that's her conflict, right? The son, as she calls him. I like this. I like the introduction of the monsters into it. I think these last two issues were kind of a little bit of a side quest kind of thing, right? Probably didn't have to spend as much time as we did on it, but it was good that we did because it kind of moves us forward into not only the characters we know, but allowing room for newer characters to exist. And I think that's important. If we're going to continue on with comic books and things like that, it's great to have our Man Thing pop up. It's great. That sounded horrible. I really need to change this. I'm going to leave it in. But other monster characters in the Marvel lore. That's great, right? It's good to bring those guys out every now and then, but we should never, ever, ever rest our creativities or our ability to present something. So I thought this was a good opportunity since we have a comic book about monsters, dealing with ancient stuff, and it being a new character, this eldest, then it would only make sense that they would have access to things we haven't seen as comic book collectors or readers of comic books in here. And I think the writers are doing a good job introducing them in a way that makes sense instead of just throwing them in there and see what people's reaction are, but actually making them an integral part of the story. And I think that's what's really making this Hulk unique. All in all, quick synopsis of the book, it was another battle scene, right? It's just another battle scene most of the time. They just fought the monster. Fought each other, fought the monster. Good stuff. All right, next. All right, so let's talk about the word useful idiot. And we're going to use Masters of the Universe Forged in Destiny. So this ends this story. Done, completed, in the bag, right? We get kind of an origin story of the He-Man character Cyclone in this. That's who our prince that passed away actually turned into. So why did all this happen? And why do I keep using the term useful idiot? So in this, Skeletor, remember, he took advantage of a situation that was perceived to be bad, but really was because of the person's own fault. The prince kind of did something stupid. Prince Adam was around, He-Man, and they kind of blamed everything on Prince Adam. So now they got to go to war with Eternia. So you got the scientific mind brains, right? And you got the magical woo-woo users having a conflict. Skeletor squeezes in there and uses scientific people. Yes, smart people can even be influenced and kind of tricked into things as well as anybody else, right? Because that's emotional. And that's the point of a useful idiot. You're using their emotional reaction, right? Versus their logical, like, hey, let's wait a second, find out what's going on. The rush to an answer kind of syndrome that happens. It's used a lot. And there's a reason why we use the term political idiot. Because generally it's used in politics a lot. But Skeletor kind of preps himself and, hey, these people are bad. This is this obviously what happened is what we saw, when actually it wasn't the full story. And we don't get the full story until Cyclone comes to kind of explain it, and they ultimately fight Skeletor with the two people coming together to defeat him because he got this ultimate power from the Forge of Destiny, hence the title. I thought this was great. I thought it was a good example. This is almost a comic book trope you would use to some degree, but in this one they didn't sugarcoat it, underline it. Like, it was straight up in your face, and I just thought it was beautiful the way that it was done. Yeah, there were some parts that kind of dragged on, didn't make much sense, but for overall story, not just this issue, I thought it was a great issue, and more than likely you'll be able to pick it up cheap, and you can read it for yourself and see exactly what I'm talking about. Next, this book gets pick of the week by default, right? It just by fault, because it is what it is, and I'm a fan of it. So, I'm not going to bore you too much with that. All right, so it's G.I. Joe issue 2, or actually 302 in this case. So, yeah. So, we had the bomb go off on Cobra Island, right? And it turned everybody into flesh-eating mutants, right? But they're able to keep their brains, right? And then you have Cobra Commander in Springfield kind of rallying the troops over there because it's a Pentor on Cobra Island, Cobra Commander over here. We got some conflict. Then we introduced the Bat. Now, some of the late 90s stuff for G.I. Joe, I didn't know much. I had to kind of go back and find out who this Alpha 0001 character was. And apparently, he kind of runs the Bats, the Battle Android Trooper things, right? Which are a fraction of Cobra. But this kind of self-aware AI robot kind of controls them as well. And then you got G.I. Joe. So you got basically 4 fractions here. Now, here's the conflict and what makes this book interesting. First off, it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. There's just some funny things that happen in it, right? Where you can kind of get a chuckle. And then there's some really sad things, like burying a soldier. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those things before, but it was very well depicted in here. All the way up to the handing of the flag. Hit you right in the guts. And then you kind of got the action scene about the mysterious and the intrigue, and then a little bit of a love story at the end, too. All in the same amount of pages and panels that you would get in any other comic book. Beautifully done, and it makes sense. Normally, I would say this is too much. And I may be a little biased on this, so let me know down in the comments below. Am I being biased right now? It's my opinions of it. I would like to think if it was bad, I would say it was bad. But I don't know. So, overall, the big conflict in here, right? Even though you got all this stuff going on, the real conflict is, should G.I. Joe get involved because the other three fractions are going to have a problem with each other. Serpentor wants to grab all the muty, eaty, fleshy people and take them to Springfield. Cobra Commander wants the old Serpentor, and kind of we know that the bats, or Alpha 0001, is going to be kind of mixed up in that conflict, probably pick which side or side's winning, right? So the question that was asked or proposed by G.I. Joe is, should we get involved? Should we just let them figure it out themselves and we'll just pick off the last one? Weaker troops, like it kind of makes sense, right? But is that the right thing to do? I'm one of those people that says if you have the ability to do, then you should do, right? And I very few circumstances can I ever lay my morals down and say, oh, let's see what happens. like I'm that guy, right? I'm that guy. But in this one, does G.I. Joe... well, first off, it would be a very boring comic book, right? Like, comic book writing-wise, it'd be like, oh, the Joes are sitting this one out. Wait a couple of issues and see when they pop back in, right? Right? But for the enjoyment of it, you know, or just for a conversational piece, right? Does G.I. Joe have, I don't want to say the authorization, but do they have the moral high ground getting involved, or the ethical high ground? You know, them being two different things. Do they have the right? Now, one would argue, well, if Cobra Island baddies, right, come to the U.S., absolutely, right? They're there to cause a problem. Done. We're going to have to team up with Cobra Commander and make something happen. Okay. It is Springfield. Remember, the entire city, town, whatever it is completely Cobra run. But there are families and stuff there. Ooh. But there's always collateral damage in war. I know that's a hard thing to say. I don't know. I like this kind of comic book because it really makes you think about those kind of things and what your place would be in some similar situation like that. So yeah, enjoying that. Not saying I have an answer, but I'm saying I'm enjoying it. All right, next. All right, so this is kind of a reboot, Animal Pound by our boy Tom King. Now, Tom King's always been kind of a hit or miss kind of guy for me. And in this one, unfortunately, I'm going to have to call it a miss. Not because it's bad writing or anything like that. This is very heavy verbiage in here, I should say that, right? There's narrative, kind of sort of dialogue boxes. You have three fractions in this as well. Dogs, cats, and rabbits, right? And if you read Animal Farm, you kind of get the premise here, right? The humans are the suppressors, plus they have the ability to kill the dog after a period of time. Animals break free. Now they got to try to figure out how to equally and be fair to each other when they already know the conflict between each other to some degree. So yeah. By the way, if you haven't read Animal Farm, I highly suggest it. Like, it was required reading when I was in my youth. I remember it distinctly. 1984, Animal Farm, and The Age of Decadence, which I would recommend to anybody out there to read. They're fairly easy reads. So definitely. All right, last but not least. I don't know what I think about this book. I'm going to go ahead and preface it with that. But I picked up Charred Remains. First off, cool cover. Great premise for a story as well, I should say that. But I felt like something was lacking in this book, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe I just had a bad lunch. I'm not sure. Preface well, not preface it, but the idea behind this is a young person gets caught in a fire, and something lives in the fire that she refers to as the fire space man, right? Firefighter comes in and tries to save her, thinks that he's talking about her, again, misperception, right? And then sees the thing himself, this kind of living being within the fire. This obviously traumatizes her for an extremely long period of time of her life. Some choices were made about some substances to use and things like that. But, they're kind of turning themselves around. And guess who's back? Right? Fireman, right? It looks like she has a pretty good support group in there, but obviously trauma's trauma, right? And then we have a firefighter that also saw this in the newest episode, or in the future of it as well. So yeah, I don't know what I feel like it should have more of. Maybe it was just the way it was written. I just didn't get the sense of intensity from this, right? You're talking about fire and things burning down, and like it was crazy, right? And I'm reading through it like, Is this another story? I don't know. Definitely have to check out issue 2 to figure that out. So, no trashes this week. Like, I couldn't trash on anything. Like, the same time, didn't get something that's not fair, right? So, I'm neutral on that. So, yeah, all in all, great week this week for comic books. Super happy. Just in time for the holidays, too. I get to go into Christmas in a good mood. You can't beat that. All right, guys, so I want to talk to you about what's coming up on the channel for the new year. So, on Christmas Eve, if you've got nothing else going on, from the time of 7 p.m. all the way up to midnight, the last story happening at midnight, I'm going to have a comic book story releasing Christmas themed to you as a countdown to Christmas Day. I hope you enjoy it. We are launching it next year, twice a week, where we're going to have those out. Probably put some of those more popular, hard to find books out there, or characters, first appearances that you'll hear about in movies and stuff like that. I know you can read your comic books free online, but I kind of want to present this to you as a kind of a giveaway. Instead of just giving one thing away to one person, I wanted all my viewers to have something. So all year long, twice a week, we're going to be launching you a comic book to read with a little bit of music. I hope the music kind of fits the theme of the book. We're going to find out if I really catch like music and understand music and reading as sort of a coexisting thing. So I'm super excited about it, and I hope you are too. I'm not going to do any crazy animations or anything with it. We're going to keep it pretty basic, just enjoyable read with some music in the background. So I hope you enjoy them. So please, if I don't tell you a whole lot, if you read these and you enjoy them, or if you feel something needs to change in them, or if there's a comic book I can get my hands on, if it's in my collection, I'm happy to do it there and get that out to you. So definitely let me know in the comments below, as always. Other than that, guys, I can't tell you, for all my people that celebrated Hanukkah, I hope you had a great Hanukkah. For all of you that are coming up on your Christmas holiday, I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. If you find yourself lonely, bored, or just annoyed with your family, you can DM me. I'll shoot you a funny meme. If you've ever seen my Instagram, that's all I do on there. It's memes and funny little videos. So, like I said, if you're just like, hey man, hit me with one, boom, I'll shoot you one. Not a problem. Other than that, folks, I got nothing else. And again, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. We'll see you soon. Bye.